Today's special guest is Ben Silverman, the Emmy and Golden Globe winning producer and former co-chair of NBC Entertainment, whose list of credits, The Office, Ugly Betty, Marco Polo, Friday Night Lights, have not only entertained audiences across the nation, but in some ways have changed the way they look at life and at themselves. From Ballard Studios in Washington, D.C., an unforgettable episode of 13th and Park.
We give you information, not a panic attack.
I mean, look what's going on. I mean, my God.
This was it. My kids were gonna die.
That time is gone forever.
This is the biggest story in America.
We weren't prepared for this.
Don't you want to speak truth to power?
Toughest thing I ever had to do.
Ben, great to have you on the show. I know you're coming to us from a full country away and then some because you're north of the border. Thanks for making the time. Justin, go get him.
Ben, tell us where you are and this exciting project that you're currently working on right now.
I'm shooting in Vancouver as we speak and in a little suburb of Vancouver called Surrey. And we're making a comedy for Apple and Apple Plus, starring Owen Wilson, set in the world of golf. And it's really an exciting project. And Owen's a spectacular talent and just loving it because I'm a fan of golf and kind of built the project around golf. And Owen was our dream actor for it the whole time we were in development with Jason Keller, who is our show running partner who wrote Ford vs. Ferrari, among other projects. So it's really fun. You do a lot of work in this business to get to a point where you can actually be on set and be in production. And this one is very winning.
So how is Owen's golf game?
He has improved dramatically. He is an athlete, loves to surf, loves to play tennis, loves to play paddle and pickle, and kind of had given up golf a little bit as a young guy because his dad had pushed him to do it and he kind of rejected it. And he actually said to me on set that, the show is a real gift for him because he's really found a love of the game and rekindled his emotion around the sport, which has only exploded in popularity. But he's an old dog in this show. He's not the golfer. He's the kind of coach and mentor to a younger aspirant.
Is there an expected release date?
Apple, as you know, is a tech company and highly protective of information and secrecy. So I'd be killed instantly on my iPhone if I shared that information. But it should come out in the beginning and height of the golf season, I would say.
You were the first producer since Norman Lear nominated for an Emmy in the Best Comedy category for 2 shows in the same year. That must have blown you away. People would spend 10 careers to have a shot at a single nomination, much less you get 2 in 1 year. What was that like?
It was extraordinary. It also was when there wasn't the great inflation that's happened in modern Hollywood, where they opened up the category. It used to be 5. So there was only 5 shows in total that could be nominated. And now they've doubled it to 10. So to have 40%, my absolute sports icon was Ted Williams. So as we know, hitting 400 is the ultimate measure of success in baseball and other worlds. And so it was awesome. And I was named chairman of NBC at the same time. And I was living a full and fantastic life and very celebratory. Obviously, as you get older, I'm now 54, you don't quite realize in the moments that you should be present and recognizing where you are. I kind of thought it would be that way always. And you have to kind of strive forward to go backward. But there's no question that was an extraordinary moment and pinnacle of fun and fantastic career.
Well, we're going to take you back to one of those moments, one of my favorite clips of all time from The Office.
What's that? Is that
Okay, I know where you're going with this, and this is who I am now. I'm a douche, but look what I can do with my hands.
Gotta go. VIP just walked through the door.
How are you, Isaac? You have something in your ear.
It's a phone?
Yes, it is. And thank you so much for setting up this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Of course, anything for Team Halpert. You're gonna crush it, Pam.
Thanks.
I've got to go.
Okay.
But you know what? Team Halpert, okay? You're going to crush it. You're going to smash it.
That's you, right, Ben?
That is me. Yeah, that is a Alfred Hitchcock moment for this producer. Most producers were aspiring actors who didn't have the ability, looks, or talent to do it. So, that was a super fun opportunity. Greg Daniels put me in the show in that environment to be an archetype of my own archetype. And he put me to work. And my first episode of the show was directed by Jon Favreau, which was like,
Wow.
An extraordinary moment of acting debut and partnership, and to work with those incredible talents from the show. I guess I did a good enough job. They put me in 4 episodes. So it was really fun. And my other partners on Jane the Virgin and Ugly Betty in this show should really watch that tape to think, where can I deliver for them?
Everyone in America has their favorite character on the show. What character was your favorite, both on and off the set?
I developed an extraordinary relationship with Brian Baumgartner, who played Kevin on the show. We both love golf and are really good friends. He and I have remained very tight. We wrote a book, a New York Times bestseller, about the history of The Office. And we actually have another book, which we have co-written, which will be coming out this November, which is like a Christmas book set in the world of The Office. But from watching the show and connecting to it, I always describe it as like a murderer's row of talent. The characters all connected to the audience in different ways, but had such exceptional ability as performers, 4-quadrant performers. I'm just going to keep with sports metaphors all day, but their ability to make you laugh, make you feel. The Office was part soap opera and character-driven emotional storytelling set in an amazing kind of accessible milieu. And then it also was massive comedy. And clearly the talent in Carell's Pinky and, Krasinski's Power and, the whole crew and Craig Robinson and Ed Helms and BJ Novak. I mean, it really was an exceptional roster of A++ people coming together around a brilliant show. And I always tell people that there are no accidents. Like, our writing staff was brilliant and incredibly weighted to the Ivy League. Mindy Kaling went to Dartmouth, Greg Daniels went to Harvard, BJ went to Harvard, Krasinski went to Brown. I mean, these were very smart and gifted people. And I always talk actually that, especially for writers, some of that academic discipline that got them to the place where they get accepted to those schools relates to their ability to actually generate the material. Because we made over 200 episodes of that show. And you need to have discipline to put the pen to paper when you're alone, as any of you know who've ever written anything.
Well, right now, this country, of course, is going through the reality play of a presidential campaign. But a lot of politics has been captured, obviously, in television and the movies. You think of The Veep, think of West Wing, you think of House of Cards. Do you think Americans maybe have a fascination about politics that transcends the normal frustration they probably feel about politics today?
Well, I think there was such a romanticized, like in West Wing and All the President's Men and other, view of what the public service of power and benevolence was inside, the historical filter of people from Tip O'Neill to President Roosevelt, that clearly the veneer is off it. When you go from wanting to take your 8th grade trip to DC to understand civics and the importance of what the power and opportunity of our great democracy can be, to just referring to it as the swamp all the time, is a demonstrable transformation in how we view politics. And I think now it's just all about gotcha and getcha. But there is no question that that kind of fame existing in that kind of power dynamic, and then the hopeful, abilities of the great men and women who do really care about public service. And when I go on trips to Washington, D.C., there are so many times that I'm wildly impressed by the people I meet, from staffer to career civil servant, and their love of country and their caring about other people, their decision to go into those roles. And then I get wildly disappointed, should Obama be worth $300 million today? Does that make sense in our society where you're able to kind of leverage your office into the next thing? Or should President Trump be selling steaks while, promoting the Bible that he also is selling? It really is so obvious. I think the conflict of interest that so many of these modern day politicians have adopted as a course and a process for themselves. So it's really a bummer for the American people, and they're interested in it, obviously, and they're buying those Bibles and they're paying to JP Morgan to hire Obama to speak, but they're not true civil servants in that way. They're not giving of themselves, and the purity that I always fantasized was the Washington, D.C.'s most opportune, environment.
Ben, you've been in the industry, the entertainment industry for many years. You've seen a lot of changes. I'm curious about how you see the future of content distribution. We have companies like Amazon, Apple, Google producing content and using content, distributing content. Do you see that changing, or do you see that trend continuing? And how is that going to impact the types of content that your company and other companies like yours produce for consumers?
Well, there's obviously been an explosion of different kinds of content that we need to thank the streamers for getting behind and almost supporting what was really a revolution in how stories were told. The moment you take the commercial out of the content, it opens up a lot of unfiltered opportunities for creative people. And so that was a wonderful outcome of the birth of streaming on the creative side. And, I look at one genre of content that we're heavily invested in. We have a documentary platform that invests in, produces some of the best documentaries in the world. We won the Emmy last year for In Her Hands, which we actually produced with Secretary Clinton. We have a documentary nomination this year around the 9/11 documentary, which we did for CNN and Warner Brothers and HBO. And we make the Untold franchise for Netflix, which is arguably the best sports storytelling franchise in history.
Wow.
And I don't think documentaries would have existed at scale or in this way if it hadn't been for the streamers. And you look at what documentaries used to be, and they were kind of homework on PBS. And this has absolutely transformed that medium as these players have gotten involved, and they've opened up different, quadrants of storytelling. So that's incredible, right? And that ability to do those shows, and like this Owen Wilson golf comedy, I don't think Owen Wilson would have done this show for NBC or ABC if he felt it was highly commoditized and commercialized like it would have been 10 years ago. So the talent coming in has also been wildly upgraded. That being said, you're not discovering talent the same way as much, right? I found America Ferrara. I found Gina Rodriguez. We found Steve Carell. We found John Krasinski at Brown. And the television made them a star. And then eventually, like George Clooney from ER, they become movie stars or continue to anchor TV shows. So that kind of laziness on the streamers' part is annoying, that they just want to hire the famous person and, slam them in the show because it kind of mitigates their risk. The business model is terrible. You've really watched companies you name probably have the highest margins in the world, and they are incredibly bad behaviors towards content creators and producers, and they think they're disposable and are not great partners. And, we arguably make some of the most important content in the world, but it is absolutely the what have you done for me lately system of buying and procuring and investing. And so many of the executives just don't have any kind of historical context or energy because they've been populated from different fields. And so there's a lot that's annoying about it. And then there's a lot that's spectacular about it. So, you have to kind of live with both in my industry.
A lot of things have changed about Hollywood, including the fact that you're now filming in British Columbia. And obviously, you look at places like that, Atlanta, Georgia has been exploding in terms of the film industry. Could you argue that Hollywood itself has expanded beyond Los Angeles, that there's still the Hollywood primature in a way, but it now is being postmarked, right, in different places around the world?
Absolutely. I mean, and some of that is wonderful, like being able to shoot on location for location, like a show like White Lotus, which I'm a fan of, where they're literally in Taormina, Sicily, shooting a show about Taormina, Sicily, or in Hawaii, shooting a show about Hawaii. So that's cool, right? Because that's bigger budget and bigger opportunity and more real and grounded. But there's also the depressing, punch in your own face, like Rupert in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, where he sticks the fork in his eye, of California letting their biggest asset walk out the door and not willing to invest in its industry with very simple tax credits, which is what, Georgia did so brilliantly, and not recognizing that every TV show comes with 150 high paid workers who will rent and buy and eat and school and add to those communities. Plus, the TV shows and films that are then shot there become commercials.
Right.
How many times do we watch and remember and fall in love with Los Angeles as you see a sunset or you see a boulevard? So to watch as a place like California not support or invest in its industry. And, there were so many times I took trips to Sacramento and sat with various leaders and was like, guys, you got to create a tax credit. This is running out the door. You are losing this on so many levels. Executives have moved to Atlanta who are brilliant people and community leaders, and you're giving up this great opportunity. It's such a stupid part of liberal bias to not support industry at scale when you look at the way that the actual trickle down, and not in the sense of a rich guy eating a steak and talking about his waiter, but 150 smart, wonderful employees with real skills and crafts, and the ecosystem of apprenticeship, which happens inside entertainment business and Hollywood, that then kind of can feed your whole system. And then the shows become commercials and people want to come there and live there and touch it. So it's been a real bummer to see that happen. But, it is what it is now. So I'm in British Columbia taking advantage of a incredible British Columbian tax credit and a strong US dollar.
One other question I wanted to ask you is about technology, artificial intelligence. It's a very hot topic all across multiple industries, but specifically about the content creation industry. How do you see artificial intelligence impacting your industry, if at all?
Well, I think it's really about later stage in a creative process. So there is no AI that can create The Office. But there may be an AI that you put 209 episodes of The Office into its generative system, and they might be able to write the 210th. Now, will it be derivative? Will it be cliched? Will it feel consistent but not innovative? Most likely, because it'll be drawn from only the previous 209 and not its own. But I could see that. I could see AI being directed and being driven with enough creative data that it could add another script or episode. It may be a shortcut to other things and it may be a problem solver, but I don't quite see it as a creative technology. So it's, I'm comfortable that I still will keep my job for a little longer.
Thank goodness for that. Well, we really appreciate you being on the show. I have to give a credit, the casting director for this is our good mutual friend, Philip Levine, for having brought us together. Whenever this movie or this production rather comes out, what you're working on in British Columbia, I know it's going to be amazing. I'm glad to hear that Owen is now taking back the game of golf. All of America continues to be entertained by the very things that you, Ben, and so many others brought to them that I think fundamentally changed the way they feel about themselves. And I think that is a hell of a way to give back to everyone.
Thank you so much. I really believe in purpose-driven content and aspirational content. I don't do a lot of cops and robbers. I do a lot of storytelling around emotion and aspiration. And I thank you for recognizing that. And I have to give a plug for my other film, which is the best R-rated nasty comedy on any platform right now, which is called Incoming, which is perfect for all your teenagers and is the #1 movie in the world right now on Netflix. So I have to throw that one out there too. But thank you so much, guys, for including me and showcasing the light where it needs to be shown.
Been our pleasure, Ben. You take care of yourself.
To be continued.